There we find the children of Israel on their final vestiges of Egyptian captivity. For years, God promised them blessings and emancipation. Generation after generation began to succumb to God's call, taking along with them dreams of a divine reparation, a land flowing with milk and honey. Then God sends a message of a divine expectation to Joshua, who goes forth and tells the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things. And on that next day, God commands the priests who were carrying the Ark of the Covenant to go and stand in the middle of the flooding Jordan River. As the priests went into the river dried up, and they allowed all of Israel to cross over in completion of their journey to the promised land. Brothers, on this morning I stand on the prophetic call of Joshua to ask us, when God commands us to go forth into the middle of the river, for the liberation of our people depends upon it, how will we answer? Oh, we are gathered in this nave in observance of changing tides and changing winds. Many of us are confused and confounded. The West End community is being encroached by entrepreneurs who are solely interested in profiting from the dispossession and discarding of black families. Our political establishment is in turmoil and dismay, as the majority is content with their inhumane ignorance. Nigerian migrants fleeing persecution are facing horrific abuse and being sold as slaves in the prisons of Libya. Why, yes, we are facing scary and dark times, but I have good news. For when the visionaries in the basement of Augusta Baptist Church saw fit to establish this black-male epicenter of academic excellence and leadership, they were in accordance with a divine orchestration, positioning us as heirs, as priests, to carry our people over our river. See, black bodies and people have had an uncanny spiritual relationship. While we sing of and travel through rivers, and just like rivers, we have continued to flow during the vicissitudes of history, through the onslaught of genocide, and through the intentional erasure of black cultural life. And if I could transcend the forces of time and space and go back in history on a mental journey, I would first stop by the 1850s and watch Mother Harriet Tubman take our freedom-seeking ancestors across the Niagara River to the border of Canada. Then I'd go over to the 1950s and sit on the train across from Emmett Till as he crossed over the Tennessee River on his way to Money, Mississippi, not knowing that his fate would cause a mighty flood of resistance amongst black people across this nation. But I would not stop there. Then I'd head over to the year 2000 and listen to Nelson Mandela speak about the ritual of the Thembu tribe, how their boys would cross over the Mbashe River in South Africa as a symbolic recognition of their journey into manhood. But if I truly had a chance to go back into history, brothers, I would want to return to this pertinent morning in 2018 and stand before you, as Langston Hughes puts it, the Negro who speaks of rivers, to remind us all that it is time to consecrate. Oh, our consecration is our commitment to our studies. Our consecration is our unrelenting pursuit of justice. Justice towards a promised land that goes beyond only straight black men enjoying the fruits of freedom. A promised land that reveres black women, that wraps its arms of warm embrace around queer folk, that extends a hand to HIV-positive folk, that opens the doors of our borders to immigrants, that redistributes land to indigenous communities, that remembers the black and brown people globally who are suffering at the hands of exploitation by free market capitalism. Morehouse, a new tomorrow is on the horizon, and it is time to manifest the liberation of our people. But crossing over our Jordan River depends on your answer, your answer to the call.
My name is Rodney Jordan Davis, a sophomore, English major from Birmingham, Alabama. Recently, I stumbled across a HuffPost blog titled, "Bad Times Mean Good Times Are Coming." The author continued to write that if you know this in your heart, you can get through anything. Immediately, I began to think about the hit show Good Times. You know, Good Times, the show that followed the life of a working poor black family who lived on the south side of Chicago, and while there were many hardships, a good time and furthermore a great lesson followed. Action and influence lead to changes or a shift in circumstances. As the wind of shift blows, we arrive in the book of Isaiah, which shows the kingdom of Judah in disarray. Political and cultural confusion was all around as war and kingdom alliances began to take place. The prophet Isaiah, whose name means salvation of the Lord, enters the text. You see, Isaiah was sent by God to influence the leaders and be the agent of change that affected the political and social shift of Judah. In this same spirit, America needs a shift. A shift economically, as Congress abruptly decided to pass a tax bill scam that protects the wealthy and neglects the poor. A shift ethically, as health insurance becomes a luxury many Americans just cannot afford to have. A shift morally, as we realize that all were created equal. Equality is a necessity in a democracy, and that everyone deserves a seat at the table. In order for a shift to occur, we need effective and efficient leaders. Leaders who have respect for laws and hold in high regard a sense of decorum. I thank God for Mother Morehouse because she serves as training grounds for political, spiritual, and ethical warfare. As her sons, we must take on the spirit of Isaiah and shift this country from total chaos to the beloved community. Morehouse has a long lineage of great shifters. Howard Washington Thurman, a theological shifter. Jay Johnson, a political shifter. Spike Lee, an entertainment shifter. Mordecai Wyatt Johnson, an educational shifter. And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a social shifter. Each growing tall enough to wear the crown placed over their heads. Yes, I believe that bad times mean good times are coming. And we are the good times that are coming. Next in line to inherit the ability to shift circumstances around us through influence. We must grow tall enough to wear the crown placed over our heads and become intentional shifters. Oaks of righteousness planted in our communities to offer agency that affects a great shift. Brothers, it's time for a shift.
My name is Malachi Walden. I'm a freshman political science major from Augusta, Georgia. The prolific writer and former president of this institution, Dr. Benjamin E. Mays, once penned, "I have only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, can't refuse it, didn't seek it, didn't choose it, but it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it, just a tiny little minute, but an eternity is in it. So here we are, my brothers, standing as the echoes of change knocks on our doorfront. Here we are, standing as the everlasting tides of time continues to commence. I would like to propose upon you a thought-provoking question. What will you do with the time that you have? Unfortunately, brothers, time is not on our side. We've been systematically disadvantaged ever since our ancestors stepped off the slave ships from Africa. And throughout the corridors of time, we've been socially recessed, economically depressed, and racially oppressed. In fact, beloved, we're living in perilous times now. Times that are contaminated with unrelenting hate and profound evil. And here we are, my black brethren, standing in the midst of these unparalleled times. What will you do with the time that you have? We must hold fast to the unwavering commitment to affect and implement change in every aspect of not only our lives, but lives that are connected to us. And we must not sit idly on the sidelines of self-comfort. It was that great poet and author James Baldwin who proclaimed, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." We must approach these times with unequivocal ambition, a steadfast agenda to fulfill everything we've set out to do. No longer will we be set back. No longer will we fall into the systematic traps that have plagued us since the conception of this, what we call nation. And last, but definitely not least, no longer will we be anyone's inferior. Instead, we will lift up our voices and do what has never been done, say what has never been said, and proclaim that which has never been proclaimed. During these times of unprecedented change, let it be said of you as men of Morehouse that you were that beacon of light, the calm in the storm, the wheel in the middle of the wheel. Let it be said of you that you were the candle in the dark. And finally, my brethren, not only are we strong black men, but we are paragons of excellence. The clock is ticking. Time is moving. What will you do?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Early III, and I am a sophomore English major from Jackson, Tennessee. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty we are free at last. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King shouted these words as the closing remarks to his infamous I Have a Dream speech on August 28, 1963. As he proclaimed these words to a crowd of over 250,000 people at the Lincoln Memorial, this was his way of saying that freedom was on its way. It could be seen on the horizon. Fast forward 50 years, and the United States of America continues to be the hub of modernized and oppressed racism. Therefore, I just have one question. How? How are we free? Freedom is defined as the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. Ironically, America is supposed to be the land of the free. Our First Amendment right entitles us to freedom of religion, speech, and the press. The 13th Amendment guarantees us freedom from slavery. The Declaration of Independence grants us freedom as citizens to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yet, minorities are constantly being oppressed and criminalized. Our entire existence protested, denying us our rights to live freely and fearlessly like the quintessential American citizen. So I ask once again, my brothers and sisters, how is it that we are free? You cannot say we are free when drugs are being planted in our community. You cannot say we are free when our fathers and brothers and uncles are being stripped of their rights and thrown behind bars, leaving our families dismantled. You cannot say we are free when presidential candidates can commit remorseless acts like refer to us as super predators and tell us to vote for them because we have nothing to lose. That is not free. The problem in America is that black people are constantly being forced to play into a game that keeps us dead, dumb, and oppressed. But the year is now 2018, and the game is over. The racism in this nation has been like a disease, corrupting the potential we the people have of living in concomitance with each other. As the new generation of America, it is our responsibility to become agents for change. We have spent too many years as the victims of this unjust and racial society. It is time for us to demand the respect and freedom we deserve as citizens of this nation, for us and the generations to follow. In order for us to have a positive effect, we have to have a greater understanding of the severity of the issues conflicting this nation. We have to stand strong in our beliefs, in unity with our brothers and sisters of other oppressed groups. We have to stand in unity with our brothers and sisters of the Latino community, the Muslim community, and the LGBTQIA community to demand our civil rights in their entirety, and not just the ones predicated upon race, religion, and gender alone. It is at this point that our agency will be recognized, and the supremacists will no longer be able to deny the revolution of America. This is what it is going to take for us to finally receive justice, because justice too long delayed is justice denied, and I refuse to be denied my right to make a difference for a better tomorrow.
My name is Jalan Alexander, a senior history major from Chesapeake, Virginia. I come here to plead with you. In the case where idiocy is chosen over the sense of moral assertion that the triple evils, racism, materialism, are still here today. As I reflected on my summer participation at the University of Virginia's Leadership Alliance program, I was perplexed by the Ku Klux Klan holding a rally over the Robert E. Lee statue in July 2017. When I returned home to Chesapeake, Virginia, another nightmare unfolded on August 12th when white nationalists and counter-protesters collided in Charlottesville, Virginia, a scene broadcasted live on CNN. My question is, how can we say that progress has been made when things remain the same? If we are to resolve these issues, then people need to take matters into their own hands. Many of our political leaders continue to exercise what I call ineffective agency, where their sense of moral agency is absent in the struggle for equality in America, thus continue to flatter us about making change, yet are disconnected from the American people. America itself continues to show ineffective agency to the world with no moral or social accountability as a nation. On April 30th, 1967, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. touched on the messianic, arrogant America in his speech, Why I Am Opposed to the War in Vietnam, where he proclaimed, "Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine, messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the world. God has always stood before nations with judgment, and I can see that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. And if you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power. And I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God." America has refused to heed this warning to change its ways. Instead, they have disremembered Dr. King by placing him in the conservative box and celebrating him with a national holiday when they were the ones who executed him. We as black people have to realize that no Lincolnian Emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. No Jeffersonian Declaration of Independence can do this for us. No Trumpian Make America Great Again can nor ever will do this for us. It is evident that we must promulgate our own self-determination within our communities, politically, economically, and spiritually. Additionally, we will be able to withstand the troublesome, mythological, monolithic white unity that continues to undermine our ability to act as liberating moral agents. But who am I to say unto you that some of us prefer the ideas and influences of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King when both are part of a continuum in the fight for black liberation? Who am I to say in the face of agency we must guide our 12th president of Morehouse College in the light of the new beginning in which he will take Daryl Morehouse to new heights? Agency is heeding the call of the zeitgeist. We either conform or transform. Agency is overcoming adversity, knowing in return of the triumphs of God's favor. Men of Morehouse, you must strive to set yourself free in order to be a voice to the voiceless in our society and not allow any injunctions to turn you around. Always remember that you are the change agents whose sole purpose is to continue to fight in our struggle for liberation and finally reach the promised land. Thank you. All power to the people.
My name is Jordan Anthony Malone, freshman kinesiology major from the 615 Nashville, Tennessee. You may ask yourselves, why is a man who simply studies to yearn to become a physical therapist or even a PE teacher is speaking to you about change? Well, it's due to my belief that no matter who or what it is, change can happen to anyone in any given time or in any given situation. Do not let the appearance of one who speaks of change fool you. As the great Martin Luther King, Morehouse alum of 1948, spoke of change when he came to this institution with nothing but straight C's under his belt as a 15-year-old. He fought through the constant struggles for racial and human equality for all. It was also Gandhi, who was nearly skin and bones to prove a point of freedom. Him and his many ideologies brought forth the change that we are in today. But I'm not here to talk about the past. I'm not here to talk about the ones who brought change in the past. I'm here to talk about the present and its catastrophic reality. I'm here to talk about the effect and agency we must all have to pave the way for the future we want. We are in the midst of a nightmare that we are living into. We hope that the nightmare ends, but it's set to repeat for the next 3 to 4 years. Perhaps some may think it's set to 8 years, or possibly forever, based on the permanent damage it can bring. It is set upon numerous examples of agency. For those of you who do not know the word, agency in sociological terms means the act of change based on one's own free will. It is a direct line of effect. With it, we've seen numerous examples over the years. We have marched, we have rioted and shouted with anger. We have stayed beneath the field of confusion. Numerous have been made, but they have not been affected as much. The vicissitudes of change have become abrupt and damaging. With it, some of you may have been fine enough to face the failures that we've experienced today. But I'm here to tell you that it's not an option. Failure was never an option to begin with. It was never an option for Otis Moss Jr. It was never an option for my family. It was never an option for my friends. And it wasn't optional for me as well. With it, I bring to you the solution for our change. We have the opportunity to breathe the future that we hold in the palm of our hands at the near middle schools, high schools, and even at our other colleges. We have the power to create the new wave of politicians, leaders, doctors, physicians, lawyers, any sorts amounts of occupations. We bring this because we believe we should not breathe into the massive hysteria. My mother and father told me before that they have nurtured me for this reason alone. That I must experience the way to become a man and bring the change. And with it, I bring you this. We must be patient. We must be patient and not give in to this hysteria. Because it is said in the Holy Bible, 2 Peter 3:9, the Lord is not slow in keeping his promise, as some understand slowness. Instead, he is patient with you, not anyone to come in demise, but everyone to come in repentance. So I say to you today, be optimistic, courageous, and patient. Breathe the future that we want today. Become the hope for the future we want. Because without the future, we have nothing. Thank you, and God bless America.
My name is Quentin Isaiah Paschel. I am a junior English major from Washington, D.C. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a little man sitting in a big office on Pennsylvania Avenue with his feet perched on top of a desk, grinning like a fool as he makes decisions that affect the rest of our lives. And for certain, I know that more will be required out of leaders in this day and age than ever before. For the next few minutes, I will demonstrate how we can effectively change this world as 21st century leaders. However, in order to do this, we must first understand that there is no world, but merely 7 billion different perspectives of such which make up a whole. And by changing just one of those perspectives, you have thus altered its total composition and changed the world as we know it. As I can assure you that nothing in this lifetime is promised except for change. However, it is our duty to guide such transformation, for if we do not change things for the better, we can be assured that they will be changed for the worse. As we have learned from the leaders who have come before us, we have seen their successes, and we have seen their failures. Nonetheless, we must understand that we are born to rebel. We must be radical thinkers, as Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays says, and be able to get down to the root of a thing. But we must also be radical in the sense that we do not abide by the politics which tell us how we must fight for our liberation. We have bared witness to revolution after revolution, so the question remains, when will we have a revolution of our own? Or will we wait for Colin Kaepernick to tweet about it? For if we really want to make change, we must be agents of change ourselves. We must be at the forefront of this evolution as to control its trajectory, which is why agency is so important to a 21st century leader. There are 1,000,001 reasons why we must take action today, change someone's life today, be masters of our discipline, and give back to our communities in any possible way. For change does not come from merely standing or watching or from treating one's voice like a caged animal, but it comes from action. We must do more. We must learn more. We must talk more. As 21st century leaders, we must all be well-spoken, regardless of our majors. Knowing that to be well-spoken does not mean to over-articulate or use words with 4 and 5 syllables, but to be well-spoken means to speak up when something needs to be said, to speak up when something needs to be heard, and right now is always a perfect time to speak up. As 21st century leaders, we must use the tools that we have created, the knowledge that we have attained, and the willpower that we have inherited to make this world better for our children. So I ask you, what is your responsibility to mankind? How do you act upon the privilege that you have been gifted? For those to whom much is given, much will always be required of. Is it your dedication to making things that aren't good great, or making things that are already great wonderful? How do you hallow your hands? Alter the minds of those you interact with, shift the air in the room, change the paradigm of time, and change the world. As 21st century leaders, we must grow and encourage those around us to grow also. Because things that do not grow begin to die. Things that do not move stand still until they slowly become statues, and statues don't become educators. Statues don't become lawyers or politicians or journalists. Statues stand at the edge of the promised land. Statues don't become revolutionaries because statues dare not be radical. Statues don't speak. Statues don't march. Statues don't become 21st century leaders because statues don't have any reason to change the world. But with 7 billion different perspectives to change, by all means, we must not stop moving. Thank you.
My name is Isaiah Chike Izemba, junior biology major from Memphis, Tennessee. Shh! Did you hear that? The call Black America cried out in anguish as she beckoned you to answer. You are gathered here in this sacred space because you have answered the call. The call that reached into the abyss of this dark and desolate world, seeking a light to awaken the consciousness of mankind. Arise in us, great spirit, and compel us to be proactive to combat racial violence. Inhibit us from becoming desensitized to injustice. For there will come a time when every one of our brothers and sisters will arise from their slumber. The time of the Great Awakening is now. Do not ever feel that because you are not being beaten to your eyes sealed shut, sweat and blood hitting the ground like hail, body aching from excruciating pain, that you are invincible to police brutality. When they target your brother, they target you when they beat your brother. They beat you when they murder your brother. They're killing off a piece of our souls that can never be revitalized. For you see, the leaders before us have gone on home, but men of Morehouse, you are the new leadership, men conscious of their crowns. You men of various disciplines must collaborate to assess the problem, plan the solution, and execute the plan. Brother Malcolm X stated, when I is replaced with we, even illness becomes wellness. We're healed of individualism. Now pack our bags of humanity and journey to freedom. Dr. King embarked on that journey to the mountaintop, and his vision has propelled us upon that mountain. Be steadfast to God's promise of freedom and tell your modern-day Pharaoh white supremacy to let my people go. Go and use our establishments to support each other. We must reinvest in Black America. Instead of banking with Chase, bank with citizens. Get your business loans from establishments whose purpose is to serve the disenfranchised. Devise our own jobs and put our people to work. When we need new infrastructures built, seek Black labor. For we are the brick masons, equipped with the tools endowed by our Creator to rebuild Black America, brick by brick. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against rulers of dark kingdoms. Racism is a wicked force that must be eradicated. Reminisce. Mother Morehouse is not only developing intellectual men, but world changers, training soldiers to fight on the battlefield of injustice. If you are called to medicine, it is your obligation to heal the open scars inflicted by degradation. If you are called to law, download into your mental database the laws enacted to cripple us, and enact laws that reverse the detriment of time. If you are called to education, educate our young of our glorious past and instill in them hope for a better tomorrow. Whatever you were called to do it so well because you're doing it for the people. For you were destined to be born for a time like this because you have answered the call to change the tides of history and the hymn of the old Negro spirit. Did my Lord deliver Daniel, and why not every man? Father God, until we are all free from the crippling hands of oppression, depriving us of our oxygen of freedom, equip us with your grace, your knowledge, and perseverance to fight the fight of justice. Amen.
Thank you so much, contestants. Please give them a hand. This was an awesome presentation. I want to introduce the judges. We weren't able to do so in the beginning because we didn't have amplification. Dr. Allison Ligon was chair of the judges and so ably organized all of this. Dr. Ligon, thank you. We have Mr. Kevin Booker, class of 90. Mrs. Carolyn Walker, head of the Learning Resource Center. Dr. Nathaniel Normand, professor of English. Dr. Barry Lee, professor of history. And Mr. Henry Goodgame, director of alumni affairs. The majority of these people are veteran judges of this contest. And in the interest of time, I'm going to dismiss them now so that they might deliberate upon the great speeches that they heard today. And of course, Our first contestant will not be penalized because our sound was not working. But basically, I appreciate your bravery. You did well. I want to also acknowledge our timekeepers. We are very fortunate that the winner of last year's Otis Moss Oratorical Contest and someone who placed in his junior year in the Oratorical Contest, Mr. Caleb Henderson, class of 17, was one of our esteemed timekeepers, a great orator. And we have a freshman who is being oriented for the first time to this tradition, Mr. Chance Gladney, class of 21. Thank you for your service in keeping us on time. I now want to have us stand. Oh, I have some announcements first. Then we're going to sing the Morehouse hymn. Mr. Goodgame has placed in each of your seats information about Reflections, which is an important part of our Founders Day week, that Saturday, in which you get to interact with the honorees. It is important, so make sure that you have that. And next week, you know, it is our tradition that during the Founders Day ceremony, we announce the winners of this esteemed contest. You will be in suspense until that time. So that means I know I will see you next Thursday at our Crown Forum for Founders Day. Would you stand, please, and someone lead us in the Morehouse hymn?
Dear old Morehouse,
Dear old Morehouse, we have pledged our lives to thee, and will ever, yea forever, give ourselves in loyalty. True forever, to old Morehouse may we be. So to bind each son the other into ties more brotherly. Holy Spirit, make us steadfast, honest, true, to old Morehouse and her ideals, and in all